Now, Hamas has abducted dozens of people, including children and the elderly. Some hostages were also taken at an outdoor music festival close to Gaza. Gunmen shot dead at least 260 people there. Now, the families of some of those at the festival still have no news about their loved ones. They don't know whether they are dead or alive. Our correspondent Tanya Kramer sent us this report.
The uncertainty is unbearable. Since Saturday, Hadass and Tomer Shalom have had no news of their daughter Noam. She was at a rave next to Kibbutz Re'im near the Gaza border when Hamas militants launched their attack.
Noam was calling at 8:30, about 8:30 in the morning in Saturday. And she was frightened and crying, and she was like saying, "There's gunshot." We could hear like there is gunshots around, and we find some shelter place, and we're a group of people together, and these things happen here sometimes, you know. Like I was telling her, no problem, you're in a safe place, don't worry, this will end soon, and see you in a while. And she said, okay, I don't have much battery, so I love you all, and I'm afraid, but I love you all, and I don't know what's going to happen, but anyway, I love you all. Remember that, she said.
Up to several thousand, mainly young partygoers, were at this site Saturday morning when rockets were launched and gunmen started to shoot. At least 250 people died here. Dozens are missing, thought to be taken to Gaza and held hostage by the militants. 3 days later, Tomer Shalom and his family are still searching hospitals, hoping their daughter wasn't abducted.
That was the last time that anyone heard something from Noam. And from that time, we are kind of in a total darkness.
There is a sense of sadness, anger and uncertainty of what is there to come. As more details emerge from what unfolded on Saturday, many Israelis have a hard time to come to terms with the unprecedented attack on Israeli communities near the Gaza Strip. In Tel Aviv, Yam Hadari has also been looking for her friend Ram. He was working at the festival. They have known each other since they were teenagers.
And then the last contact with him was at 9:21 a.m. Saturday morning. He sent a text message to his mother, and in the text message he says that he loves them, his family, but he's in a container. There are a lot of terrorists outside, lots of gunshots outside, and it does not seem like they are going to make it out of there alive.
Friends and family scoured social media for a sign of life. They didn't know what had happened to him. But then a text message arrives.
I was just asking Ram's wife, Lilach, if she can send me one of his pictures so I can send it to you. It's from their wedding day, and she says that they told them now officially that he's dead. His family knows already.
He's one of the many killed in this attack.
DW's Jerusalem correspondent Tanya Kramer filed that report you just saw, and she joins me now. Tanya, as you say in your report, many people are still missing. They may have been abducted. But what do we know about the people who are known to have been taken?
Well, I think right now, I mean, it's an incredibly difficult situation for people with loved ones missing, because there's still the identification process going on for those we saw in the report who are still waiting to know what happened to them. But there are others they know for sure, because there were some of the harrowing videos that were posted on social media where they saw their loved ones being dragged over the border into Gaza. They also don't know, are they injured, what what has happened to them. And from some of those, there are some of the details that are coming. There was an elderly woman from a kibbutz that was dragged and, driven away on a pickup truck. We also saw a guy in his 20s. He was almost half naked on a pickup truck. We also know about a young paramedic, a young woman who was taken to Gaza. These are, relatives. They know that their loved ones are in Gaza, and there's an identification process at the moment going on with the army informing families what has happened to their loved ones. But there are also more and more details coming out, from other areas in the south that have been closed off until now. For example, in Kibbutz Be'eri, that's also very, very close to the Gaza border, where over 100 bodies have been discovered in the past days. And more of those relatives and families are reaching out, especially also to the foreign media, because they want, the world to know what has happened there.
Very quickly, Tanya, what can you tell us about the Israeli government's plans to rescue the hostages? Are other governments, for example, whose nationals are among those hostages, stepping in to help?
Well, this is still too early to tell, because we have to look maybe in the past. I mean, Hamas has taken hostages before, like in 2006, a soldier was captured and then taken into Gaza. He was released only in 2011 against 1,000 Palestinian prisoners. But this is so unprecedented, taking civilians, elderly people, children. So there's no playbook here. What is there to come for them?
And that's where we'll leave it for the moment. We will be coming back to you, Tanya, later in our coverage. That's Tanya Kramer in Jerusalem. And I'm now joined by Liri Roman. His sister, Yarden, has been missing since Saturday's terrorist attack by Hamas. Yarden was visiting relatives in Kibbutz Be'eri in southern Israel when it was attacked. Yarden's husband and her 3-year-old daughter were abducted, but they managed to escape. Liri joins me now from Givatayim in Israel. Liri, I really appreciate you coming onto the program today. I can't imagine how difficult this must be for you. But can you just start by telling us a little bit more about your sister's disappearance?
Yes, of course. Thank you, Christine, for having us. As you said, my sister and her family, Alon, her husband, and Geffen, her daughter, a 3-year-old daughter, went to their family's dinner for a holiday feast. And Friday evening, they stayed the night there and woke up on Saturday for this madness. People coming to their home, to the shelter that they have built for their family, and just pulled them out of there. In the house, all Alon's family, my sister's husband, 2 of his parents, his sister as well, they were taken at different stages. He was the first one. He got into a car. He thought that Yarden and Geffen were hiding and that they'll be okay.
Yeah.
But after a few minutes, they also were pulled into the same car, and they were all taken together towards the border. This is where our story have a little of magic in it, where they found this opportunity to just get out of the car, a car with 3 terrorists armed, and they started running. At the beginning, they had a chance to run without anyone behind them, but then they heard the terrorists after them starting to shoot towards them.
And this is the point where they lost track of each other, where they went in different directions. Liri, as I understand, I'm spurring you on because I do want to get to other aspects of this story. Have you heard any news? It's been 4 days now since your sister disappeared. Any indication of her whereabouts?
No. So because there is the spot of where Yarden and Alon got apart, a certain tree where he last saw her. There are teams that are looking in the field, trying to find any track, any sign of a direction. We hope that maybe she's still hiding somewhere, but we've heard nothing. We know nothing. It's an innocent woman, a mother for a 3-year-old child that is now here with me, that we need to take care of her until her mother will be back. Specifically here, Yarden is also a German citizen, so we did want to hear also from Germany to put as much pressure to know about a citizen of Germany that's
missing
in the unknown.
Yeah.
Saturday.
Larry, of course, there's a lot of uncertainty here. We saw in my colleague Tanya Kramer's report that we aired shortly before talking to you, for some families, the reality is their relatives have been found, and the news is not great because the relatives have been found dead. I wondered, Larry, and this is probably a very unfair question to you, but if your sister is being held somewhere in Gaza, does that give you a little bit more hope that she is alive? Bearing in mind, we don't know what's happening to the hostages that have been taken into Gaza.
I think that this is why it's so important for us to talk about it and to bring it to the attention of the world. So everyone will care about those people, so the attackers will keep them safe. They will have them and hold them, but they will keep them safe because they'll know that they're not messing just with Israel, and they're not just messing with the Israeli government. It's not a war of an army against army. It's innocent people. It could be, if it's going to be a system of terror, it's going to be everywhere. And we hope that the voice of the world will help us keep Yarden safe, even though she's held hostage somewhere.
Larry, we're reporting a lot about this ground offensive that we anticipate that Israel will launch into Gaza. And we've heard from Hamas that they will kill some of the hostages, or they will kill the hostages that they've taken in retaliation to that. Does that worry you, knowing that this is the threat on your sister's life, if indeed she is in Gaza?
I must be honest and say that we're interviewing here today because we feel it's very important to tell the story and to make the whole world aware. But I'm not much aware of what's going on in the press and what we hear from Hamas, because I have a 3-year-old to take care of.
Yeah. And I appreciate that.
I don't want to.
I totally understand that. Of course, you've got a lot to deal with at the moment. Larry, have you... there are other families that are in the situation that you are in now. Have you been in contact with them? Is there some kind of a support system that you all have established to help each other at this moment?
So there are a few, and we're trying. At the beginning, everything was chaos, as expected, I guess. Nobody knew anything, and we're still trying to figure out. There are a lot of different channels of communication, different groups. Not everything is very organized. Not everything is official. We haven't got even not one official phone call from an authority saying, we're looking for your sister, or we don't have any new information, but we're on it. And this is one of the main things that we need the support of one another to try and push, to try and get some sense into this crazy situation.
Larry, I really appreciate your coming on to the program today to talk to us about this. Thank you so much for sharing that story with us. That is Larry Roman, whose sister is still missing since Saturday's attacks. Thanks so much again, Larry. All the best to your family.
Thank you.
Well, I'm joined now by Moshe Zimmerman. He is an Israeli historian and a leading authority on nationalism and anti-Semitism. He joins me tonight from Jerusalem. Mr. Zimmerman, we appreciate you for staying up to talk with us this evening. I'm sure you've heard the news. Israeli forces today saying that they have regained total control of Israeli territory along the border with Gaza, but they didn't do it in time to prevent the kidnapping of some 150 people who are now hostages in the hands of Hamas. What does history tell you about the chances of getting these hostages out safe and sound?
Well, it is a very tragic history that we have. It's very hard to get the hostages back from any Arab country, and especially not from the Hamas. We had already a long story about getting back one soldier or one civilian. Now we have to do with a whole group of more than 100 people. So the chances of getting them back, even if we are ready, if Israel is ready to pay the price, is very low.
What is the readiness in Israeli society, in your opinion, of accepting the price being collateral damage, that these hostages may have to die in order to defeat Hamas?
Well, it is quite clear that the army is going to try to free those hostages by force. And of course, we know that this is a very difficult task. The general public is, of course, all for freeing the people, but they take the chance, after all, that while bombing the Gaza Strip, this is going to bring about the death of the hostages too. The wish for revenge, I think, is at the moment so strong that the other considerations are becoming more a background consideration. It is a very cruel decision to be made, but my impression is that people are ready to take the risk. They are all for punishing the Arabs, punishing the people of Gaza, of course, punishing Hamas, and they are ready to pay the price.
The Prime Minister of Israel, Netanyahu, he says that he is going to change the Middle East. And when you hear him say that, what do you understand in that statement? Change it in what way? I mean, what will this different Middle East look like after this attack on Hamas?
Well, I'm an Israeli. As an Israeli, I got used to not to believe to anything that my prime minister says, but I understand what he intends to do. He wants to erase Hamas, and maybe even more than only Hamas. He wants to change the balance of power in Gaza and around Gaza and between Israel and the Arab neighbors by punishing Hamas or by punishing Gaza. This is a general idea. I don't believe, or I don't think that it's going to achieve a real change if he is not going to be ready to deal with the Palestinians, especially in the those of the Palestinian Authority. As long as you don't show any signs of readiness to have real peace with the Palestinians, I'm not talking about Hamas, I'm talking about the Palestinian people in the West Bank, then of course you are not going to change anything radically, and it's only a kind of a slogan that he uses in order to console the Israeli soul.
I know that you've been critical of Netanyahu's government and that you've called this war a failure of the Israeli state. What exactly do you mean by that?
The Israeli state was created in order to be a safe haven for Jews from all over the world. We know about the story of the Jews in the diasporas in the 18th century, in the 12th century, that were pogromed by the non-Jews, by Christians, by others. And the whole idea of Zionism was to create a state, to create a place in which Jews will live safely. This is something that was really destroyed by what happened Saturday near the Gaza Strip. Jews in Israel, in the sovereign state of Israel, in the sovereign state of the Zionist movement, were slaughtered, were pogromed, the same way as it was in the 18th century and 19th century Eastern Europe, or even during the Second World War when the Nazis invaded the USSR.
If the state has failed in its obligation to protect the people in Israel, let me ask you personally, do you feel less safe now than you did a week ago? I mean, what have the events from Saturday, what have they done to your notion of personal safety inside the Jewish state of Israel?
Well, of course, I expect the Israeli army to protect most of the Israeli society. This was an exception, this occurrence 3 days ago. But in general, one must have to admit that the Israeli state, Israel as a state, is not very successful in really keeping the safety of the Israeli people. It's not only a problem of such a brutal attack like the one from Gaza. This is something that you feel in the everyday life. There is something wrong about the way the Israeli politics understand their duty toward their people and their duty toward history.
Historian Moshe Zimmerman. Mr. Zimmerman, I wish we had more time to talk about this, but I certainly appreciate you taking the time to share your thoughts with us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Journalist Adi Kopelwitz in Jerusalem told us earlier more about these reported atrocities.
You said earlier that we can't show the photos out of respect to the victims. Unfortunately, I had to watch these materials today, and never in all of my journalism career have I seen such horrific videos and images from anywhere in the world. We're talking about tens and tens of mutilated bodies, some of them burned, beheaded babies thrown in the trails of the little community of Kfar Aza, whole families burned to death in their shelters, young mothers, young children shot down while they were bound outside their houses. Truly unimaginable things, immense amounts of blood in each and every house of the kibbutz, a result of the slaughter, because the terrorists went from house to house. They didn't just come to attack or conquer the kibbutz. They came to annihilate the community, to destroy them completely, to decimate them. And we have to realize the scale of this. Kfar Aza is one of several communities on the border. There were about 700 people living in this kibbutz before the slaughter. At least 100 of them are dead now. That basically means that the kibbutz, as it was, will no longer exist. The act done by Hamas and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad in these communities is no less than ethnic cleansing. President Biden compared these acts of sheer evil, as he said, to ISIS. I don't even recall images like this coming from Iraq when ISIS did their journey of horrors there. Truly unprecedented sights, one community after the other, Kfar Aza just being the first one that we're getting testimonies out of.